What went wrong with Minnesota Vikings quarterback J.J. McCarthy last season, and how can it be fixed? That is the question I'm going to be answering in this video. Of course, there was the entire meme of J.J. 9 McCarthy, and I was so excited at the time. I think we all know what happened after that. But yeah, there were definitely some highlights throughout the season. It wasn't just all terrible. The JJ to JJ connection wasn't really there the whole season, and I think that's a big part of the issue. However, I think his biggest issues are things that are very trainable. His biggest issue, I think, was his accuracy and decision making. It seemed like the entire first part of the season, he was just slinging the rock down the field as far as he could, throwing a bunch of interceptions, throwing it into double, triple coverage, and just sailing balls specifically on out routes. He just kept sailing those to wide open receivers, and it was really frustrating. But of course, accuracy and decision making are both extremely coachable, and with a good offseason, you can fix that. Just getting back to the basics of throwing and doing lots of accuracy drills and just helping build up that chemistry that wasn't there last season because J.J. McCarthy was injured the whole time and couldn't get actual physical reps. Another major part of it was just absolute garbage coaching from Kevin O'Connell up until week 14. That's when they beat the Commanders, just demolished them, and JJ started looking good, and the whole team was clicking, and then we won out the rest of the games, and then we're half a game away from the playoffs. So, yeah, the bad coaching really didn't help JJ McCarthy at all. It's not totally on Kevin O'Connell. It's not totally on JJ McCarthy, but they both played contributing factors, and as Kevin O'Connell said, he feels that organizations fail young quarterbacks more than young quarterbacks fail organizations. And I think last season, in the first 13 weeks, J.J. McCarthy was a victim of that partially. And Kevin O'Connell seemed to figure it out at the end. He was making the offense too complicated, lots of pre-snap movements, and it was just too complicated for a rookie in his basically rookie season. And he seemed to figure that out in about week 14, and coincidence, that's when the offense started clicking. Injuries. There's not really too much you can do about injuries, if we're being honest. At least not that I can think of. I might be wrong. But J.J. McCarthy was pretty injury-prone last season. Of course, he had the meniscus in his very first ever NFL game in the preseason against the Raiders in 2024. He also had an ankle injury in week 2 against the Falcons. He had a wrist injury or finger injury or something that kept him out for a couple weeks. And he was just out for the rest of the season because they didn't want to risk him like tearing an ACL or something. So reasonable, of course. But there's not really too much you can do about that. But this definitely was a part of it, constantly being taken off the field and then thrown back in, having to get reacclimated and all that stuff. And it was probably a lot of back and forth and a lot of mind games with J.J. McCarthy. And yes, he is a very strong-minded person and is very like hardcore when it comes to like meditating and focusing and all that stuff. You get what I mean. But that at a certain point, that has to get to you, and it also takes a physical toll on you, because when you're out for a few weeks and you're not used to being hit constantly, when you get back in there and you start getting hit a bunch of times, that just, it hurts a lot more. And that kind of brings me to my next point, offensive line issues the entire season. We had so many different starting offensive lines. I don't think we had the entire starting offensive line until like mid-season or something. It was absurd. Everybody on the O-line was constantly getting injured. The only like person who really stayed there like every week, I think pretty much, was Donovan Jackson. even though he had literal wrist surgery, he just fucking played through it like a monster. But yeah, the O-line was bad, and everybody just couldn't stay on the field, and the lack of depth was showing from Kwesi's not so good drafts, and it was just a disaster. And the offensive line just couldn't seem to figure it out. The Vikings have fired their offensive line coach, Chris Cooper, and I'm not 100% sure if they brought someone in, but I know they fired him. So yeah, I'm excited to see. Maybe, because on paper, you look at the starting offensive line, Brian O'Neill, Will Fries, Ryan Kelly, Donovan Jackson, and Christian Darrisaw. That should be an incredible offensive line, but it just wasn't. Last issue, it was his first year starting. Obviously, had the torn meniscus in 2024 in his first preseason game, so he got the mental reps, but he didn't get the physical reps, which are probably the most important thing. It was being an NFL quarterback is obviously hard, and I don't think that needs to be stated. I think that's pretty obvious to most people who have common sense or some sort of common sense. But yes, he should have been better, but I am cutting him some slack because there are a lot of issues at play, and he's never been in this position before. The real question to this is, how will he respond to all this criticism online, all this hate from the media, from fans, from his own teammates? How will he respond to it when adversity is all in his face? And that is what him and Kevin O'Connell are all about. So I expect him to bounce back for sure. How do we fix it? That is the real question. First, use magic to heal the injuries. It's that easy. But seriously, I don't know how to help prevent injuries. It's kind of luck. But moving on to my next point, work on accuracy and decision making in the off season. Like I said, lots of accuracy drills, just getting back to the basics, simplifying the offense, and just trying not to overthink things, and don't give J.J. McCarthy opportunities to throw the ball 50 yards downfield, because about 80% of the time he's going to take that opportunity. Whether it's double, triple, quadruple, quintuple coverage, it doesn't matter to him. Next, Kevin O'Connell continues to be the quarterback whisperer. He has grown this reputation for being the quarterback whisperer, starting with Kirk Cousins and then Jaren Hall, who on the first or second drive, the first quarter of the Atlanta Falcons game, he was looking perfectly fine, and then he got a concussion, and then Josh Dobbs came in, and then that was super fun for like 2-3 weeks, and then he was ass cheeks. Then we had Big Dick Nick for a couple weeks there, and yeah, it was a disaster. But with what he was given, Kevin O'Connell did pretty damn good. Sam Darnold looked absolutely incredible last season. I believe we went 13-4. And Kevin O'Connell took this number 3 overall draft pick bust to making him one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and now allegedly a Super Bowl winning quarterback. But we're not going to talk about that. But it all started with Kevin O'Connell. I don't think Sam Darnold would be where he is today if it wasn't for Kevin O'Connell and that 13-4 season. Now, of course, this season he had JJ, and there were, like I said, were some lows. But then when he figured out how to coach JJ in week 14, it really started to pick up, and JJ was looking a lot better. Next, fix the JJ to JJ connection. Getting the ball to your playmakers is the most important possible thing you can do. And when you have the best wide receiver in the National Football League on your team named Justin Jefferson, you get the damn ball to him no matter what you have to do. And they just need to spend the whole offseason spending a bunch of time together, getting a lot of reps together, playing catch together, practicing together to get that chemistry and get this JJ to JJ connection, because not only will it help the offense, but it's super fun to say JJ to JJ and say JJ threw a touchdown to JJ. That's fun. So, yeah, please, they just need to work on fixing this connection. Quarterback and wide receiver 1 connection is probably the most important connection for those two positions to have. All in all, though, I am still a major believer in JJ McCarthy. This is criticism. This is not hate. I love JJ McCarthy. I love his mentality, and I still truly do believe he can be the quarterback of the future. And I think if you do these simple things, it will really tremendously help out JJ McCarthy and the team a lot. Again, I love JJ McCarthy, but this is constructive and respectful criticism, not hate. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on JJ McCarthy. Let me know your thoughts on my thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you want. Skull